Morning.
Morning. I hope you have had the opportunity to visit the different booths of our virtual fair. Today is the second and last day of this fair, so if you want to have the time to visit our booth, don't hesitate. So for this first webinar, we have an echo. So could someone please just plug the microphone? Thank you so much. So I hope you guys are excited as I am to start this first webinar of the day. This one is called Sustainable Tourism, a Key Development Sector. Tourisme durable est une filière de développement clé for the Caribbean region, pour la région de la Caraïbe. To talk about that, please just set up your microphone. I'm sorry, just one sec. Maybe Taron could cut his microphone.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. There we go. So we have here, as I was saying, first off, Dimitri Herita, who is the Communication and Public Relations Coordinator for the Martinique Tourism Authority in Canada.
Hi.
Then we will proceed with the presentation of Michael Harrison, who's Group Executive Chef for the Ocean Hotels in Barbados. And last but not least, we have certified teachers Jean-Michel Nitarom and José Cecina from the North Caribbean Hotel School in Martinique to talk about that subject. So we will proceed.
Good morning to you guys. Good morning.
Good morning. We'll proceed with Dimitri's presentation first, then with Michael's, and then with José Cecina's presentation, and then we will proceed with your questions. So don't hesitate to ask questions in the chat. So go ahead, Dimitri. I'm going to put on your presentation.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much, Serena, for this introduction. So, as you told me, my name is Dimitri Dejean. I'm the PR and Communication Coordinator for the Martinique Tourism Authority's office in Canada. So, our aim is to develop the promotion of the Martinique destination towards our Canadian market. So, I will be glad to give you some insight about what sustainable tourism is and what we comprehend about this specific topic, as we need to tackle it as a whole for the whole Caribbean. So shall we proceed? I will just give you a few definitions about sustainable tourism and then for sustainable development. So the World Tourism Organization defines sustainable tourism as tourism that takes full account of its current and future economic, social, and environmental impacts, addressing the needs of visitors, the industry, environment, and host communities. Sustainable development plays therefore a pivotal role for sustainable tourism. Indeed, the 1992 Rio Summit is a definition of sustainable development. It is an effective economic development, socially equitable, and ecologically responsible. I think there is an echo from Jean-Michel Nitaron. Could you please cut your mic? Because I have an echo.
Yes, I was trying to do it, but yeah.
Okay.
No,
I think it's still on.
It's still on.
It's cut. It's cut now. Thank you.
Yes, great. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. We move on. So preservation of nature is at the heart of sustainable tourism, which is at stake for the Caribbean and for the whole world by extension. You have to understand that there are 34 biodiversity hotspots in the world, and the Caribbean is one of them, where more than 700 endemic species are in danger of extinction. Important note, the 34 biodiversity hotspots only cover 16% of the world total surface. So I will just start my presentation by giving you the environmental stakes of sustainable tourism for the island of Martinique and for the Caribbean by extension. So you have to know that Martinique is located in one of the biggest biodiversity hotspots in the world. Martinique Regional Nature Reserve ranks among the 11 most irreplaceable areas in the world. Basically, 2/3 of the island's biodiversity is protected by strict legal designations, such as National Nature Reserve, Biotop Protection Order, Regional Nature Reserve offers certification label, etc. Now we will just focus on what endemic species living in Martinique are like. Martinique Regional Nature Reserve gives us some data about biodiversity in Martinique. So you can have like more than 3,008 floral species in Martinique. This is the highest number in the Caribbean. Martinique is known as the Isle of Flowers for a good reason. You have as well 103 fauna species and 350 mushroom species. Let's see now some notable examples of endemic wildlife in Martinique. First thing first, the Diamond Rock. This is the emblematic islet of Martinique. This is a refuge, a sanctuary for numerous birds and marine life. For example, there are 50 crow species in the world, and you can observe 40 of them in the Diamond Rock. You have on the second spot, the Balata Garden with 3,000 plant species covering 3 different hectares. This is one of the biggest botanical gardens in Martinique, in the Caribbean. Third, you have the Martinique's Marine Nature Reserve with 47,340 kilometers squared precisely. This is France's second largest marine nature reserve. It has a huge biodiversity, including some mangroves, corals, hundreds of marine wildlife, and covers Martinique's 48 islets that are all protected, such as Île Arami, Île Madame, Île Chancel as well, which is Martinique's biggest islet. Speaking about Île Chancel, this islet is home to the lesser Antillean iguana that is in danger of extinction today, unfortunately, because there are only a few remaining in Martinique, Guadeloupe, and some area in the island of Dominica. Biodiversity, it's therefore important to protect this biodiversity. And because biodiversity leads to ecosystem services, these are the many and varied benefits to humans provided by the natural environment and from healthy ecosystems. They include pollination, fishing, farming, alimentation, pharmaceutical, wellness activities, and so on. Biodiversity must be preserved in order to continue delivering those services. One of the ideas to do so is Martinique application at the UNESCO. I have as well echo from Jean-Michel. You kept your mic, sorry.
Back. Could you turn the microphone off again, please, Mr. Nitaram?
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I was just saying that one of the ideas to preserve the biodiversity in Martinique is the application at the UNESCO program. You have to understand that for the moment, there are 3 different applications that are submitted at the UNESCO, but one of them that I will just focus more, it's the UNESCO World Heritage Program for the Mont Pelée and its forest and the Carbet Peak and forest, because it respects both UNESCO criteria for this application, from volcanism and geology on one side, this is criteria number 8, and biodiversity, this is the other criteria, it's the criteria number 10. This prestigious label will allow Martinique to develop more material for the preservation of those areas, attract tourists, and raising more awareness about biodiversity and the species among them, and finally, drive lines about international cooperation in the region. Now, I will just more focus about the proposal of the Martinique Tourism Authority and its support to sustainable development, and I will therefore more focus on the environmental approach. You have to know that Martinique's nature areas are the main factor for ecotourism. Biodiversity touristic points of interest in Martinique include Saut du Gendarme Fall, Treasure Bay in La Caravelle Peninsula, Deux Amanatries in Habitation Siron in the north, or St. Mary's Tombolo, among others. On 289 companies based in Martinique proposing nature sports and or green activities, you could see on the map on the left that the north concentrates equally both nature and aquatic activities, while the center of Martinique has more land-based activities, 53%, and the south more water sports, 40%. The map on the right shows the repartition of the areas where one can practice such activities. For example, on the Caribbean seaside on Martinique, on the west, the north has 25 diving spots, whereas the center has 20 and the south concentrates the highest number of 63. I will now highlight the role of the Martinique Tourism Authority regarding its support of tourism business in the island and its measures towards sustainable tourism. First of all, I will refer the Martinique Tourism Authority as MTA because it's too long. Martinique Tourism Authority stands for MTA. So MTA aims to promote our island towards the general public and the professionals of the tourism industry. MTA participates in the implementation of Martinique's touristic policies while coping with Martinique's urban planning and sustainable development plan, Martinique's sea enhancement plan, and Martinique's touristic plan, all of them developed by the Executive Council of Martinique. MTA created therefore 3 different commissions. First, the promotion one, product and cruise water sports. All of them aim to work on touristic fundamentals question while accompanying the professional of the sector. The development department of the MTA works closely alongside the professionals of the tourism business by giving them advices towards development perspectives and also public funds to develop projects after MTA's board's approval. Martinique Tourism Authority's current tourism commissioner is Mrs. Karine Mousseau, and the current CEO is Mr. François Baltus-Languedoc. MTA works closely with its partners such as the Martinique Regional Nature Reserve, the Martinique Environment Urban Planning Housing Authority, or the Martinique Chamber of Commerce, the latter that delivers the prestigious label Qualité Tourisme. This label is compatible with the ideas of sustainable development, right? Because it raises ecological awareness, promotion of the destination, or implementation of local partnership, among others. With the COVID-19, though, there was a surge of the necessity to protect the local terroir. MTA participates in the protection and the visibility of such terroirs by organizing what we call some press trips with journalists or bloggers and fam trips. These are business trips for travel agents that aims to present the professionals of the industry and their products for the sake of experiential tourism and not mass tourism. For example, gastronomy and local distribution channels that are respectful of the terroir. And one of the main terroir that we have in Martinique and that I will just give a few insight on is the development of the canne-sucre-rhum spirit tourism sector. Martinique's agricultural rum are the only one in the world to own the prestigious appellation d'origine contrôlée label. Martinique rums are one of the best rum in the world, if not the best. I will fight anyone on this specific topic. Martinique's agricultural rum is directly produced of the distillation and fermentation of the sugarcane. Martinique's rum are renowned for their quality and the sustainability of the process of their fabrication. They are regularly awarded in the world, notably this year with Rhum Clément, JM, Trois-Rivières, and Lamoni. You have to understand that the international markets are calling for those specific products, especially in Canada, where Trois-Rivières and Lamoni rums are distributed. And as Serena told you in the beginning of this meeting, I am based in Montreal, Quebec, with my team of 2, with Ingrid and Muriel, that I salute here. So we will see the application on the Canadian market towards the perception of sustainable tourism. You have to understand that outside the US, the Caribbean, alongside Mexico, Florida, and Central America, represents the second main market for Canadian visitors for leisure. The typical profile of the Canadian visitor in Martinique is more outdoor and nature. At least 75% of the Canadian visitors like to hike and sightseeing when being in Martinique, for example. Therefore, we chose to focus our promotion mainly on 2 different markets, nature and gastronomy. So I will just give you a few insights about both of them. So first, Canadians and the nature market. So the Martinique Tourism Authority participates in many nature-oriented fairs and workshops, such as the Montreal Outdoor Adventures and Travel Show. Every year, we even host our own workshop towards Canadian travel agents called Destination Martinique Magnifique. Those exhibitions are the occasion to introduce our Martinican professionals from the tourism business specialized in outdoor or green activities or even slow tourism. Slow tourism is a quite new trend that our Canadian visitors love, particularly because they include new way of tourism such as agritourism, responsible tourism, or experiential tourism. The advantages are numerous, and one of them is that one can experience direct contact with the population. Martinique has more and more this kind of product because you can find in Martinique many ecologies like Domaine des Bulles and outdoor activities such as la sautée, canyoning, or outdoor cooking class with local products. Le Hameau du Monde des Cadets, which is commonly known as Chez Tonton Léon, is an example of a touristic product that gathers all of the characteristics of sustainable tourism that Québécois love particularly: agrotourism, housing in nature, hiking trails, and so on. And last but not least, I will, next slide. Yeah. So last but not least, I will just give you a few insights about what we understand about gastronomy as a driving force for sustainable development in Canada. But I will let my other fellow colleagues, such as Chef Michael, to develop more after my presentations. So you have to note that the Martinique Tourism Authority promotes Martinique's terroirs with its own foods festival called Martinique Gourmand. It's held in Montreal and Quebec City for 13 years in a row. And this is for us an effective way to welcome to Canada some Martinican chefs such as Nathaniel Duteuil, Claire-Marie Dubois, or Fabrice Filin, who can share our culinary culture and authentic cooking technique with the general public. So we usually hold a Creole village fair, and we incite some people to go to the restaurant to have a taste about what Martinique is. And on the other side, the Martinique Tourism Authority also implemented the Foodie Tours of Martinique, which is kind of a roadmap of culinary activities in Martinique that is distributed during Martinique Gourmand Food Festival. So in a nutshell, as we are just arriving in the end of my presentation, why sustainable tourism is a great opportunity for the Caribbean? First, to preserve our natural wonders and our resources. Second, to strengthen the performance of our companies in the tourism industry. Third, to exploit the existing resources while respecting the environment. You have to understand that the work has yet to be done, but some ideas had emerged. First, the convention that set the guidelines for the Sustainable Tourism Zone of the Caribbean. It was made up by the Special Committee of the Association of the Caribbean States for Sustainable Development. The aim is to ensure that while attracting tourists, the islands cooperate in order to preserve their natural environment and the communities surrounding. The La Caravelle Peninsula and the town of Sainte-Anne in Martinique has been quoted in this charter as zones of sustainable development. The second work is a charter of sustainable tourism that will be developed by the Martinican Tourism Authority and its partners for better commitment and understanding. And there is a third point missing on my slide. It's the Odyssea project. Since ELAN, I think, is an Interreg EU program, I think that Odyssea is as well an Interreg funded program with the South Authority of Martinique and Martinique Regional Park to enhance and to preserve our biodiversity, but more in the south of the island. I will just leave you guys on this beautiful image of the beautiful fisherman city of Les Anses-d'Arles in Martinique, which has been ranked in the second position as le village préféré des Français in France, the French most beautiful village, because as a Caribbean boy and bred, I am in love with my island, and so should you. So when we love our island, we need to care for them. Thank you so much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Dimitri. That was very instructive, very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
You talked about the role of food culture in the pursuit of a sustainable way of visiting Caribbean islands, and I think we're going to have more information about that with Michael Harrison, who's a chef, executive chef for the Oceans Hotel in Barbados. So let me just go on with the presentation. And there you go. And I leave you the floor.
Hi, thank you. That was fantastic. Oh, I loved every minute of it.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Chef Michael.
And listening to you and listening to your passion, it has inspired me even more to dive deeper. You know, I've always, no, seriously, I'm not just saying that. And just, oh man, you can sense you can feel the passion coming from your voice and watching you and your slides. It's incredible. Thank you.
Thank you, Chef Michael.
So my name is Michael Harrison, and I'm a chef at the Ocean Hotels and Resorts in Barbados, and I've also represented Barbados in many culinary competitions around the world, especially Taste of the Caribbean in Miami. I traveled to promote Barbados as a culinary ambassador. I've been to Brazil, Panama, Cuba, the US, South Africa, Thailand, all over promoting Barbadian and Caribbean food culture. And what I was a little bit stuck, quite honestly, when I was asked to do this presentation about sustainable tourism. And the reason I was stuck was purely because of the word or the phrase sustainable tourism. And I was like, what does that mean? Like, and I start Googling to get some information, obviously, because I want or present something really unique and special. But the more I researched it, the more I realized this is stuff that we do all the time in the Caribbean. And sometimes people come with these beautiful phrases, sustainable tourism, that it makes you think like, what does that mean? But this is just everyday thing that we Caribbean people do, that we are passionate about, that we love so much. It's like one of the phrases that people use is, let's say, farm to table. We've been doing that for centuries in the Caribbean, for years in the Caribbean. That's how we eat, that's how we live. Someone from outside coined that phrase, send it back to the Caribbean, and we go with it like, wow, this is great. The same thing from tail to snout. So I say all that to say that sometimes we do these things naturally. Sometimes we do these things without even thinking. But I hope as I go ahead, you could understand where I'm coming from a chef perspective. So I asked myself the question, what do I understand by sustainable tourism and food culture from a heritage perspective? And what I would like to say is that it is respecting and embracing what we eat, the history of it, the reason why we eat it, and the need to preserve it. Now that sounds like a mouthful, but I really think that if we understand and we love and we are passionate about our food culture and the history of it, and the reason why our grandparents, our parents would have prepared those dishes that way, and the reason why people come from all over the world actually and love it sometimes more than we, the people in the Caribbean, love it, then we might get a better understanding and a feeling why we should maintain it and protect it for generations to come. And I've wrote a lot of points here, but I really don't want to go through the points point by point. I just really want to mention a couple, and if you want to read through the slide after, then you can also do that. And to me, sustainable tourism, it also creates opportunities. It creates opportunities to allow us as chefs, us as tour operators, us as people in the communities to encourage people to come to our communities. It encourages us to speak proudly about our culture, about our heritage, about our food, and not just talk about it in a way to make people want to say, okay, I want to try this, but talk about it and tell our stories to make them want to try it and smile when to try it. Like, okay, I didn't realize that this thing tastes like this, or I didn't realize you do this particular ingredient or cook this ingredient in such a way. But by talking it or by speaking about it with passion, I believe we would make our visitors and even the locals sometimes who don't even maybe think about these particular items in that way, want to enjoy it and try it some more. I will move on to why do we think it's important for us to take this seriously? And it's important for us to take this seriously because number one, if we don't take it seriously, who will, quite frankly? I think in Barbados, and I'm sure in many other territories, sometimes we don't see our food culture and our food the way we should. Perhaps because we eat it on a daily basis, perhaps because we grew up with it as kids, perhaps of the internet and Instagram, and we see what other people are doing, that sometimes I think we like what other people are doing more than we like what we are doing. But I really think that we need to focus and push what we do. Right now, South America has become the biggest trend in food. Everybody wants to try an ingredient from South America. They all want to eat an ingredient from South America. They all want to enjoy what South Americans do. And I'm happy for that because I see that as perhaps the next best or biggest thing will be the Caribbean. And I want us to really, perhaps after we finish and we listen to these different various presentations, really take some time and look at what we do, what we eat, how we speak about our food, to figure out, am I really doing the best that I could to help promote the food cultures in the various regions? Can I do more? Can I encourage more people maybe to take a trip to one of the villages or to try one of the recipes or perhaps go to one of the restaurants or maybe encourage my friends or my family, perhaps let's take a trip down and try maybe experience the fishing village or one of the areas where they maybe cook the best grilled fish on the island or maybe make the best fish cakes or the best sauce. Is that something that I can do with my friends to help promote that culture and post the stories on Instagram as proudly as we post the stories when we travel to different countries? Perhaps that's something that we all can do. Highlight these interesting things about our islands more, the same way we are fast to post the pictures when we travel to different countries. I will move on to areas for opportunities. And some of the key areas are farming and fishing, national dishes and favorite recipes, culture and heritage tours, and value-added products. So for me, farming and fishing, and that's a critical area. When I think about farming and fishing, I think about all the opportunities the local farmers can have, supplying obviously the local fruits and vegetables to the locals, to the hotels, to the restaurants, and in turn to the guests. Now, one of my favorite fruits of all time, which is sort of underutilized, I think, as far as visitors are concerned, in my country, in Barbados, is the soursop. Now, the soursop is a fruit that's indigenous to the Caribbean, and it is one that is not plentiful in Barbados, quite honestly. So the locals normally keep it for themselves. So, but for me, there is no fruit, and everybody speaks about mangoes and maybe pineapples. But when you think about the soursop and the uniqueness in the soursop, the sweetness, the sour, the vibrant white, the green on the outside, the fact that it's also used in terms of the leaves for some sort of cancer cure, the soursop in itself is an amazing fruit, and it's so juicy that when you bite into it, it just falls all down your mouth. But there's not enough of it grown in Barbados. Now, I sometimes wonder, why haven't we thought of maybe setting a program up where we grow more fruits like the soursop, the sugar apple, the golden apple, and maybe grow lots of carrot, lots of beans, lots of okra. But how come no one have thought about just growing these local traditional indigenous fruits in abundance in Barbados and perhaps some of the other Caribbean islands? Yes, they're used a lot for the locals, but they're not used enough in the hotels and the restaurants, in my opinion. When you go to those places, you normally see more strawberries, more raspberries, more what are considered the exotic fruits from outside. But for me, those are not exotic fruits. Or the exotic fruit for me is the soursop, the sugar apple, and the ackee. They're not used to that. Those fruits are exotic, in my opinion. When I also think about farming, there are great opportunities for farmers to maybe grow some of the more trendier vegetables and fruits that the chefs are looking for. Here we are now starting to do lots of microgreens. And I had an instance where one of the chefs, I had a visiting chef, and we were doing an event called Desserts for Dinner, which is purely desserts for dinner. Only desserts were prepared, and this was during our regular festival called Food and Rum. But he wanted a special and unique microgreen called Herita or Aramath, if I pronounce it correctly, Aramath. And I've never heard about it, quite honestly. And I was like, man, if you had told me this earlier, I would have got it flown in from outside. And I went to a friend of mine to make some ice cream for the same, because my ice cream machine wasn't working. And my fellow chef was using this same microgreen. So I asked him where he got that from. And he said he got it from a local farmer. I called the local farmer immediately. He brought some of the same microgreen. And when this chef from London that worked in Michelin star restaurant saw this Aramath and the quality of it, he was blown away. He said he'd never seen anything so beautiful, so vibrant, so lush in London. Normally he would get it flown in from somewhere, maybe from France, took a couple of days to get to London because it probably was sitting in a warehouse somewhere then, and then arrived to him. But he was amazed that we are growing this kind of stuff in Barbados, and so was I, because I wasn't aware of it either. So, and as it relates to fishing, I would like us as chefs as well and Caribbean people to also respect the laws as it relates to fishing, especially when there's a product that is perhaps on the endangered list. In Barbados, it is sea egg. Let's not fish it. Let's not use it. Let's not cook it. Let's respect it so that it can replenish itself and we can have it for generations to come. Also, as it relates to some species that are also invading our waters, like the lionfish, which are absolutely delicious and, in my opinion, sometimes more tastier than the snapper. Let's try to help the coral reef and help protect the other species by also eating those species that are invading the waters to help protect our environment. I'll move on to favorite recipes. Now, one of my dishes and my favorite dishes is pudding and sauce. There's nothing greater in the whole Caribbean. I'm sorry, other guys. I'm sorry, Martinique. Than a Bajan pudding and sauce on a Saturday with a rum and coke or beer. It is absolutely delicious. And again, when you talk about heritage and history, that dish came from slavery. That dish was given to the slaves. Actually, not the dish. The pig head, the pig feet, the intestines were given to the slaves to use to eat as the cuts that maybe the plantation owners didn't want. And we turned that into a dish. And it's not only used in Barbados, it's used in other Caribbean islands as well. But we use that dish to make something called sauce. And up to this day, that dish is now the most trendiest dish in Barbados. To me, eating sauce in a rum shop with a beer or rum is bigger than going to church on Sunday in Barbados right now at this moment. That is how huge and how trendy that dish is. And it is also used to bring people in the community together. Every little community, every shop in the community has its own recipe or the person that makes it in that kind of special and unique way that make you say, oh, I don't want that sauce from that area. I have to go by Miss Pearly down the road because she makes it the best way. And I think that is something that we need to highlight. That is something that we need to keep going. And those are the things that we need to encourage the visitors to come to the island to experience, and once they're on the island, to take them as well. I'll move on to, to culinary and heritage tours. So as a chef, I came up with this tour where it's called Island Vibes and Market Tours, where I take the guests around Barbados to a few special areas, normally starting with the rum shop. Normally starting with a vegetable market, moving on to a fish market, then to 2 different rum shops. And it's amazing how taking the guests to a market, showing them our local vegetables and fruits, how amazed they are. And I normally go to the market on Saturdays because the vibe is different, the feeling is different. You sort of have a better understanding for Caribbean lifestyle, going in the market on a Saturday morning when all the local shop for the fruits and vegetables. But I always start the tour with one thing: a carrot, a local carrot. Our carrots never look beautiful to most people. They always have a hump. They always have 2 little things crawling down, or they're sort of bumpy. They're sort of considered ugly. And I compare the local carrot to the imported carrot that they might get from a Tesco's or a big supermarket in, let's say, in London or New York. where they all look like supermodels, but they never taste or can compare to the vibrant orange color, to the natural taste of the carrot, to the smell of the carrot, like a Caribbean carrot grown in a traditional or somebody's kitchen garden or in an open field in the Caribbean. And then they get why the carrot look like that, because it's not something that's injected or cloned or specially breed. It is just a natural, beautiful, delicious carrot. After that, I take them to try some local food for breakfast, the roti, the fish cake, the ham cutter, and I explain why we eat those items, when we eat those items, the importance of eating those items. And I also take them to the fish market, where they can really see the fish that are caught and that are served on the island. If we're lucky, we get to go on a fishing boat and they talk to the fishermen so they understand a little bit more. Then we move on to the rum shop, where they can actually experience all the things that they would have saw prepared in a dish. Then they can experience those dishes as well. And we eat those, and we eat them with the rum. Now, there's no eating food without drinking some rum or beer. And then I have value-added products. Now, if you look on the right-hand side of the screen, you will see the roast breadfruit. And I chose that picture because there's a Rastafari that cooks every day next to where I work. And this is the kind of stuff that he eats every day. And for me, there's no better way to describe sustainable living, quite frankly, than someone catching a fish from the ocean, roasting the breadfruit from a tree close by on an open fire. It is authentic. It is the way we live. It is just how we enjoy our food, not in its most natural form. But when I think about value-added products where we can give to the guests as they leave, these are just some items that we can sell, some items that they would have experienced during the stay, like the local jams. And it doesn't always have to be the rum that they get at the departure lounge where they're leaving, or the rum that's pushed on them, because all the Caribbean islands, we do rum. I heard that Martinique say they do the best rum, but I think Barbados is the place that give us the world rum with mongoose, so they say. I don't know, but all the territories make great rum anyway. And then there's other items, like maybe they have this amazing cocktail on their holiday, bottle that cocktail and sell it. I went to the Nevis and there's a cocktail called the Killer Bee. It was such an amazing cocktail that I asked the guy to put it in a bottle and give me so I can take it with me, because that was perhaps the highlight of my stay. And I move on again obviously after we have some discussion and questions, but this is just a photo of some of the people that I would have taken on the tours in a rum shop, in someone backyard with the pigs next door keeping noise, and we're eating the food, and then you tell the story of open fields in the back, our heritage, our culture, and then they get to experience the true essence of the Caribbean, but in an immersive way. And then I finished the slide, and I selected this last photo for one reason, is that this again represents our culture, our heritage. The person in this slide is called Sir Garfield Sobers, and he is the best cricketer that ever lived in the world. He is Barbadian, and normally we invite Sir Garfield Sobers to our hotel to sign autograph, to speak to the guests, to tell his stories about cricketing and traveling around the world. And for the guests, especially those who love cricket, there is no better feeling to know that they had a story with Sir Gary, and they would have taken a photo with Sir Gary, or he would have given them an autograph, and for them, that would have been their highlight. But he is Barbados's only living national hero, and we celebrate Sir Garfield Sobers and others like him in Barbados, which makes it part of our culture. I'm sorry, I didn't reach those slides. Please forgive me. I was having some challenges with my computer, so I'm using my cell phone. So I'm very, very, very sorry. Please forgive me. But this is Sir Garfield Sobers here. Sorry about that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Michael. It was really instructive as well, and very interesting to have a chef's perspective on that issue. And last but not least, we have with us the Northern Caribbean Hotel of Martinique with José Cecina, who is going to make the last presentation for that webinar. So I leave the floor to you. You might want to enable your microphone as well.
Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Can I call you Michael?
Definitely. Yes.
I mean, to be quite honest, I really enjoyed every minute of what you said, and I couldn't agree more. I mean, I agree 100%. Read it. I mean, I was really moved to tears because, you know, I honeymooned in Barbados, so I was totally hooked to your presentation. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, so hello everyone. My name is José Cecina, and I am a lecturer at Lycée Nord Caraïbes in Martinique. So I'm doing my presentation from Martinique, actually, as you all know. Well, when my esteemed colleagues Jean-Michel Nitarom and André Diaboa invited me to talk about Caribbean food and cuisine, I could not help but, you know, walk down memory lanes thinking about those earnest discussions I had with my English and French friends about the mere existence of Caribbean cuisine. I remember them telling me that it was just a figment of my imagination, just an illusion. They would tell me that Caribbean cuisine is just a set of recipes made by some cooks throughout the regions when opportunity knocks. Well, I've got news for them. Because even though national egos are growing and the feeling of a sharing common destiny as islands of the Caribbean is in retreat, we still have much in common. History-wise, language-wise, weather-wise, I'm thinking about devastating hurricanes, and food-wise, of course. Ladies and gentlemen, Caribbean cuisine is a tangible reality. Martinique and St. Lucia, for example, share the same national dish, green fig and saltfish. Throughout the region, so many young men and women are taking up cooking and catering as a career, receiving proper training in cooking and catering schools. Indeed, there is a tremendous difference between a good cook and a chef. A good cook can prepare what they know well, usually 4 or 5 dishes. A chef understands flavors, how they combine. He will magnify the products to create an atmosphere. Take, for example, Martinique-born chef Marcel Ravin, who won his first Michelin star as an executive chef in Monaco just last year. Being a Black Caribbean person doesn't mean you automatically know everything about Caribbean food. So just to prove my friend's churlish statements wrong, today we're going to talk about Caribbean cuisine, about its origin, its history, its influences, and its future. Caribbean cuisine is a fusion of African, Amerindian, European, East Indian, Arab, and Chinese cuisine. The indigenous population of the Caribbean added their own touch as well. When Christopher Columbus arrived in 1493, the Spaniards introduced other foods, notably coconut, chickpeas, cilantro, eggplant, onions, and garlic. Food is an essential aspect of many family traditions in Caribbean culture. At holidays and special events, it is very common for people to spend many days preparing food. Caribbean food includes all the favorite seafood, chicken and steak, prepared with the spices and colorful ingredients of the islands. The Arawak, Carib, and Taino Indians were the first dwellers in the Caribbean islands. Their daily diet consists of vegetables and fruits such as papaya, yams, guavas, and cassava. The Taino began the process of preparing meat and fish in large clay pots. The Caribbeans introduced spices and lemon juice to their meat and fish recipes. The Arawaks are the first people known to make a grate of thin green wood strips on which they slowly cooked meat, allowing it to be enhanced by the flavor of the wood. This grate was called a barbacoa, and the word we know today is barbecue. It's taken from this early Indian cooking method. The Caribs are said to have made the first pepper pot stew. No recipes existed back then, since every time the Indians made the dish, they would always add new ingredients. The Caribs had a big impact on early Caribbean history, and the Caribbean Sea was, of course, named after this tribe, as you all know. In general, the favorite Caribbean dish is seasoned jerk chicken. This spicy cuisine is unique, but Caribbean cuisine consists of culinary influences from Africa, France, Spain, India, the Dutch, America, Britain, and Asia. The Chinese, for example, launched rice and mustard, and the early Portuguese sailors are responsible for adding the famous codfish. Spain brought in fruit trees like orange, ginger, plantains, figs, date palms, sugarcane, grapes, tamarinds, and coconuts. And the Americas introduced beans, corn, squash, potatoes, tomatoes, and chili pepper. As for the European influence, once the Europeans brought African slaves into the region, the slaves' diet consisted mostly of food the slave owners did not want to eat. So the slaves had to be inventive, and they blended their traditional African foods with staples found on the islands. African men, being hunters in their homeland and often away from home for long periods of time, learned to cook spicy meat over hot coals. When English soldiers arrived on the island of Jamaica, for example, they brought the technique of preserving meat over rocks in the hot sun. Both the African and English meat techniques were refined by the early slaves in Jamaica into the present-day technique known as jerk cooking. The secret involves a slow meat cooking process. Jamaica is famous for jerk chicken and pork, and you will find jerk all over the island. After slavery was abolished throughout the Caribbean, the Europeans went to India and China for labor, especially in Martinique, and more cooking styles were introduced. Much of the Indian cooking culture remains alive and well in the Caribbean today with the introduction of curried meats and curry powder. Indians call it curry podi, and we have come to know this pungent flavor as curry. The Chinese, as I said earlier, introduced rice, which is always a staple in home-cooked island meals. The Chinese also introduced mustard, and the early Portuguese sailors introduced the popular codfish. Most visitors to the Caribbean have no idea that the fruit trees and fruits so familiar to the islands were introduced by the early Spanish explorers. Another ship was more successful in bringing breadfruit, what we call in Martinique fruit à pain, from Polynesia to Jamaica in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Today, breadfruit is an important staple of the Caribbean diet. America is responsible for introducing beans, corn, squash, tomatoes, chili pepper to the Caribbean. Okay? In fact, these particular foods had never been seen in Asia, Europe, or Africa. So America actually introduced these foods to the rest of the world via the Caribbean. So it's no wonder Caribbean cooking is so rich and creative with the flavors of Africa, India, and China, along with Spanish, Danish, Portuguese, French, and British influences. You can see that chicken, goat, and curry are favorite foods throughout the English-influenced areas of the Caribbean, while the French cuisine is prevalent in the French-influenced areas of the Caribbean. Also, people living in the Spanish-influenced region of the Caribbean eat a lot of spicy and flavored food. I'm thinking about Scotch bonnet pepper, what we call here in Martinique, piment bon d'Amanjac, okay, which is indigenous to most of the Caribbean islands. Seafood is very popular in the Caribbean as well. Each Caribbean nation usually has a unique seafood cuisine. Shark, fish, I'm thinking about Barbadian cuckoo or flying fish, lobster, and conch are familiar favorite dishes in different regions. Rice is a staple food throughout the Caribbean, as I said earlier, and each island has a particular rice dish. I'm thinking about Haitian black rice, or how they call it, diri collé in Haiti. On some islands, rice is seasoned or served with coconut. Yellow and brown rice is served as a side on many Caribbean dishes. In addition to rice, beans, or red kidney beans, haricots rouges, as they say in Martinique, or pois rouges, as they say in Martinique, okay, are a favorite food throughout the Caribbean. In Cuba, beans appear in many dishes. Beans are cooked and served in a variety of ways depending on the country. Food served in the Caribbean islands has been influenced by the cultures of the world, but each island adds its unique flavor and culinary techniques. Caribbean cooking is most famous because of its many influences from many staple foods of the world. You will notice throughout the islands, there are many similarities, but it's always a slightly different combination, which gives us our different techniques and flavors and tendencies. But as a conclusion, Caribbean cuisine is facing testing times because of its vulnerability to fierce fast food culture. The younger generations are more interested in quick and cheap food as more foreign fast food companies enter the Caribbean markets. Families don't have time to cook traditional, delightful recipes anymore. To taste some of our most palatable, flavorful, and delightful staple foods, you have to go to expensive fine dining restaurants, which are making them as a private preserve, a chasse gardée, we would say in French. Global cuisine is about to replace national cuisines. Nonetheless, I have got absolute confidence that sooner or later, the younger generations of chefs will live up to the true meaning of their Caribbean culinary heritage. Explore uncharted territories as far as products, flavors, and combinations are concerned, turning it into a tangible reality, not a fleeting illusion. I hope this presentation was enlightening for you, and I thank you all for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This was very insightful. Could you enable your microphone again, because we still have the whole echo. Thank you very, very much. To all of you, really, it was a very interesting presentations, and this topic is really fascinating, and the relationship with the whole development and promotion of Caribbean identity is of course very important. We do have some questions. I have two questions for Dimitri. The first one is, do you have any idea of how does Martinique protect its fauna, such as the iguanas that you were talking about during your presentation?
Oh yeah, so now it's really up to the Prefecture of Martinique and the authorities such as the Martinique Regional Park to do so, but we as the Martinican Tourism Authority, we try to raise awareness more about the preservation, but especially for our tourists that are coming into this island. So we want them to know that we have a biodiversity that must be protected by all means necessary. But for the protection per se of the species in danger of extinction, we mostly relied on the institution, the scientific institution that take that into consideration. Yes.
Okay, thank you. And also, any news about the Martinique UNESCO application?
Yeah, so hopefully it has yet to be submitted to the French President Emmanuel Macron, but he will have to choose between another file. But we do not have yet some competitor for France. But we hope that because it's our third application, right? So we want it to make it happen. But we have two other ones that still are ongoing. You have the Martinique Reserve de Biosphère, which is in a good position to be accepted by the committee. So it has to be accepted, I think, by late 2021. And you have another one for the protection of the yawl. This is a boat, a special boat that you can only find in Martinique. There is that huge boat race festival held. But now with COVID, it didn't happen last year, unfortunately, but it's symbolic of Martinique, and it's for the immaterial cultural plan of the UNESCO. So it's the three different files that are yet still be submitted.
Okay, thank you very much. We had the whole controversial subject about rum, and I have a humorous question that I really like. That's a very, I'm reading, that's a very controversial statement on Martinique and rum, and can you sustain this statement?
Yeah, I sustain because I'm Martinican, right? So this is the culture speaking, but just on the more serious side, Martinican rum are agricultural, right? So it's made straight up the sugar cane. And our medals and prices all over the world speak for themselves. And but on the specific technique as well, the mere fact of the process of the fabrication of our rum is totally remarkable. And especially, I have the rum seller in mind, Daniel Baudin from BBS Lamoni and Trois-Rivières. He made actually the impossible. One of his last product was the ratafia. It's a specific product that you usually find in the wine business. So it's this is a mix with the rum, the alcohol with the juice of the sugar cane. So he tried. So it took like 10 years to put this product in March to implement this product, and he succeeded. So it was a product that was launched, I think, last year, and it's the very first ratafia made out of rum. It has never been seen before. So this is why I said that Martinican rums are some different techniques from all the good rums in the Caribbean. I love me some Monday, Chef Michael. Don't worry about that. But Martinican rum has some distinction about it.
Okay. Michael, do you want to add something maybe? I saw you maybe a bit boiling. Your microphone is not.
I'm sorry. It's not important who has the better rum, in my opinion, anyways.
Yeah,
what's important is that the Caribbean makes amazing rums. And I don't even think that we understand it as much as other people do, quite frankly. Because each time I go to bars and so forth, especially the younger generation, it's all about the vodka, the whiskey, but we don't respect and really enjoy and treat the rum the way it should personally. But we all have some beautiful rums in the Caribbean.
Oh, yeah, I agree with you. Okay, well, that was very interesting. One last question. I don't know about you guys, but this just made me a bit hungry, I would say. And maybe you could tell us each one Caribbean meal that you particularly enjoy and that means a lot to you guys, and then we will wrap up with this session. Maybe Dimitri? I know he has something to say.
I have a lot of things in mind. Oh, wow. I will cry, like I'm craving for pain beurre chocolat. This is a brioche, a special brioche in Martinique with hot chocolate that is infused with cinnamon, vanilla, and some fishes. So I'm craving for that. Since it's freezing out
here. Then, Michael, maybe you have an idea. I think you would have an idea too. Something you particularly enjoy cooking or eating.
Yeah,
well,
that was my.
For me right now, I would have to say it's the roast breadfruit. And why I love this dish is because it reminds me of my childhood. In Barbados, the roast breadfruit is becoming very, very, very trendy. So you can go on the street and you can buy a roast breadfruit, whereas in the past, the breadfruit, you would have given it to a neighbor. Now you have to pay for a roast breadfruit with a couple toppings up to about $20 for a dish that used to be considered only the poor man's food. And I even did an event where I charged about 5,000 US to do just a breadfruit station for this guy who came off this luxury yacht and wanted to do so. Actually, the great story about that, he wanted to do something for his guests who've never seen, that they would have never seen before. And he lived on this boat. I can't remember what the boat is, but it's this yacht that has a few wealthy people living on it in villas. And I was invited to do the breadfruit station, the roast breadfruit. So I roasted the breadfruit natural. I created the toppings, even using lobster, prawns, braised black belly lamb. And I brought some of the breadfruit tree, told a story about Captain Bligh, the mutiny on the Bounty, the ship that brought the breadfruit to the Caribbean. It almost didn't get here because of the mutiny. So it was also a great story to tell as well. And again, that's why I love it so much, because the breadfruit has a story behind it. And it also, the important part of it, it was a cheap source of food for the slaves. But I'm yet to understand why it is not eaten and respected even more now.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And yeah, you were talking, Mr. Cecina, about the history of the Caribbean food products. So, what would be your answer regarding that? What would you?
First of all, let me start by saying something. Most of the time, as they say in English, grass is always greener on the other side. Okay, but I believe that we should develop the sense of belonging. The fact that we are all Caribbean and we share this common history, and we should think about this common destiny as well, the common future, and come together. That's why here in my school we have signed a memorandum of understanding with St. Lucia and the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, okay, for our students to realize that they belong together, that we are brothers and sisters, and that we should, instead of standing divided apart, we should come together, okay, and bear this in mind. Okay, so it's so important, because the only way we can stop the invasion between brackets, okay, is by being together, by standing together, okay? Birds of a feather flock together, okay? And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much to both of you. We already have we are already 3 minutes late, so I'm going to wrap up this session. Thank you again. This was fascinating, and for the viewers, we will have the registration of this session, so you will be able to watch it again and to listen to our panelists. Thank you very much, and see you in 30 minutes for the next webinar, which will be about agroecology. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Serena. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys, loved it.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye. Wow.